Today we discuss about the morphogenetic movements. So we already known about the morphogenetic movements. Previously we discussed in the gas relation. Okay. So morphogenetic movements means nothing but the movement of cells from one place to another place to bring about a new shape to the embryo is called morphogenetic movements. That means the movement of cells from one place to another place and they bring a new shape to the embryo. It's called a morphogenetic movement. So mostly these morphogenetic movements occurs in the during the gastrulation period. So during the gastrulation period the blastomeres are moved from one place to another and these cell movements transform the blastula into gastrula where the cell or these blastomeres are moved one place to another place. These type of cell movements transform the blastula into gastrula. As these movements lead to the formation of a new shape to the embryo. So these morphogenetic movements meaning is morpho means form and genetic means production. These morphogenetic movements are mainly two types. One is the epiboly, another one is the emboly. So epiboly means the movement of cells on the surface of the embryo. The movement of the cells on the surface of the embryo. So it's a Greek word. This meaning of epiboly is throwing on. Throwing on or extending upon. So during the gastrulation period the ectoderm spreads out anterior posteriorly as well as laterally. So as a result the entire gastrula gradually covered by the ectoderm. This neuroectoderm extends anterior posteriorly as a narrow strip of cells. Epiboly means the movement of cells on the surface of the embryo is called epiboly. It's a Greek word. The meaning of epiboly is throwing on or extending upon. So the ectodermal cells are involved in epiboly. So during the gastrulation, these ectoderm spreads out anterior posteriorly, and also this neuroectoderm extends anterior posteriorly as a narrow strip of cells. Another one, emboly. Emboly means the movement of cells from surface to the interior of the embryo is called emboly. The movement of cells from the surface to interior of the embryo. It is also derived from the Greek. The meaning of emboly is throw in or thrust in or thrust in. So here several different types of embolic movements are there. So they are, one is convergence, second one is involution, third one is divergence, fourth one is invagination, fifth one Polyin Imagination, sixth one ingression, and seventh one delamination, and the eighth one concrescence, and ninth one infiltration, and the tenth one constriction, and the 11th one extension or elongation. So now we discuss about the first one. First one is the convergence. So convergence means the movement of cells towards a single point. That means the different angles, okay, or different portions, all the cells are moved towards a single point is called convergence. So we can see an example in the amphiaxis. So in amphiaxis, there is a presumptive endoderm and mesoderm and notochordal cells located on the surface of early gastrula, early gastrula, and these are migrate towards the single point of blastopore. So which are the cells present on the early gastrula? So these all are migrate towards a single point of blastopore. And second one, involution. So involution means rolling in of cells. So here, so which are the cells present on the blastoporal lip? Which are the cells are present on the blastoporal lip? These cells are moved over the lip and brought into the inner side of the lip. So, which are the cells present on the blastoporal lip? These are moved over the lip and they are brought into the inner side of the lip. It's called involution. And third one, divergence. Divergence means it is completely opposite to the convergence. So means here the cells moves in different directions from a single point. So here the migration involuted cells from the blastophore or primitive streak to the interior of the embryo is a good example. Means they migrate different directions from the blastopore or primitive streak. Another one, invagination. So this invagination is also called as infolding or in pushing or in sinking of a layer of cells into the blastocele. So here this invagination process form a cavity called archenteron. This invagination form a cavity called archenteron. It is surrounded by the enfolded cells. So here the inward migration. So here the inward migration of the vegetal pole cells means from the endoderm in amphiaxis is a good example for the invagination. Another one, Polyin. So it is also resembles the invagination, and but here the outer layer invaginates in many places. Here this outer layer invaginates in many places. So here these individual cells or group of cells are involved in the process. And next one, ingression. Ingression occurs in the mostly in the reptiles, birds, mammals. So the ingression occurs in the embryos of reptiles, birds, mammals. During the ingression, these individual cells or group of cells are separate from the primitive streak and migrate into the space between epiblast and hypoblast. So ingression means individual cells or group of cells are separate from the primitive streak and these cells are migrate into the space between the epiblast and also hypoblast. It is called ingression. And the next one, delamination. Delamination means it refers to separation of a layer of cells from another layer by splitting process. It is called delamination. So here we can see the example. So the separation of endodermal and mesodermal and these notochordal cells from each other is a good example for the delamination. separation of endodermal, mesodermal and notochordal cells from each other is a good example for the delamination. Delamination means separation of a layer of cells from another layer by splitting process. And another one, concrescence. Concrescence means it refers the migration of group of cells towards each other until they meet and fuse together and if they form a single mass tissue. So here a group of cells migrate towards each other and also they form a single mass tissue. It's called concrescence. So this type of process occurs in the during the development of feathers in birds. And another one, infiltration. Infiltration means it occurs in the during the development of endoderm in amniotes. So here the individual cells detach themselves from the surface of blastoderm and these cells are fall into the primary blastocele, which are the cell detached from the surface and these cells will be fall into the primary blastocele. Here these cells are arranged a form layer of endoderm cells. Here they arrange themselves to form a layer of endoderm cells. Another one, constriction. Constriction means here the reduction in size of the blastopore. Reduction in size of the blastopore is called constriction. So the constriction is very broad in the initial stage of the gastrulation. The blastopore is very broad into the blastopore is very broad in the initial stage of the gastrulation, but later this will be completely when the blastopore begin to contrast, so that opening becomes smaller and smaller and eventually reduced and it's closed. And another one, extension and elongation. So it refers the anterior and posterior elongation part of the embryo. Example, neural plate. And notochordal rod, etc. So morphogenetic movements means the movement of cells from one place to another place and they bring a new shape to the embryo. And there are two types, one is the epiboly and the one is the emboly. Epiboly means the movement of cells on the surface of the embryo and emboly means the surface to the interior of the embryo. So here several different types of embolic movements are there. One is the convergence. Convergence means the movement of a cell towards a single point. That means the different types of cells from the different directions and they move towards a single point. It's called a convergence. And involution means rolling in. So here the cells, that means which are the cells present on the blastoporal lip, and these cells are move over the lip and they are brought to the inner side of the lip. And divergence means here that it is completely opposite to the convergence. So here the cells move in different directions from a single point. Invagination means in folding, or it is called as in pushing or in sinking. So here a layer of cells into the blastocele. So this process results in the formation of a cavity called archenteron and this is surrounded by the enfolded cells. And next one, Polyin Imagination. So Polyin Imagination resembles the imagination. So here the individual cells or group of cells are involved in this process. And next one, integration. Integration means here it is present in the reptiles, birds and mammals. During this phenomena, individual cells or group of cells are separated from the primitive streak and they migrate into the space between epiblast and also hypoblast. And another one, delamination. Delamination means here separation of the layer of cells from another layer by splitting process. Example for the separation of endodermal and mesodermal and notochordal cells from each other. Another one, concrescence. Concrescence means here the group of cells towards each other until they meet and fused together and they form a single mass of tissue. And infiltration means here it occurs in the during the development of endoderm in amniotes, and here the individual cells are detach themselves and they fall into the primary blastocele. After these cells are completely arranged a layer of endoderm cells. And another one, constriction. Constriction means here it is the reduction in size of the blastopore. So blastopore is very broad in the initial stage of gastrulation. So later the lips of the blastopore begin to contract so that the opening becomes smaller and smaller and eventually it's reduced and finally it's closed. And extension and elongation process. So this anterior and also posterior part of the embryo. So example, neural plate and also notochord rod, etc. And next one, mechanism of morphogenetic movements. So here the example of sea urchin. So in the sea urchin, during the gastrulation period, the inner ends of the cells are present at the vegetal pole. These inner ends cells present at the vegetal pole and they develop many pseudopodia. These inner cells are developed many pseudopodia. This results the change of the shape of these cells, and the inner ends of these cells are expanded and protruded and the vegetal pole drawn inwards. This causes the formation of archenteron. So these all cells enters into the inner side and they form archenteron. So due to the invagination going on, the blastula gradually converted into a double-walled gastrula. So invagination is going on, blastula is converted into the gastrula. So here these mesenchymal cells are formed the invaginating ectoderm. So here the cells are start bubbling. Here the cells are start bubbling on their inner surface and they succeeded producing the rounded and protrusions. So these cells are completely detached from the adjacent cells and they released blastocele, and these adjacent cells are completely released into the blastocele. So in the blastocele these cells are present in the spherical shape and then they send into the slender filamentous pseudopodia, slender filamentous pseudopodia, or it's called pilopodia. So towards the inner surface of ectoderm and the pilopodia come in contact with the ectoderm and they are attached firmly. So here the filopodia contract. As a result, the loose mesenchymal cells are drawn towards the inner surface of ectoderm. So mechanism means here during the gastrulation period the inner ends of the cells are present at the vegetal pole and they produced pseudopodia. So due to the pseudopodia the cell shapes are completely changed. So here in the same time the inner ends of the cells are expanded and protruded in the vegetal pole drawn inwards, and due to the invagination they form archenterons. So here the blastula will be converted into the gastrula. So here the mesenchymal cells are formed from the invaginating endoderm, and here these cells are started bubbling in the inner surface, and they succeed in producing the rounded protrusions, and these cells are completely detached from the adjacent cells, and these cells are released into the blastocele. So when they are reached to the blastocele, that's time these cells are present in the spherical shape, and after that they send out to the slender filament pseudopodia towards the inner surface of ectoderm. So here this philopodia and ectoderm both are attached firmly, and then the philopodia contract. As the result, these lose the mesenchymal cells drawn towards and the inner surface of the ectoderm. It is the mechanism of morphogenetic movements in sea urchin. Thank you.